This broadcast is entirely fictional. All names, characters, locations, and events are products of imagination, created only for storytelling and dramatic effect. Any similarities to real people, places, or situations are purely coincidental. The content is not meant to harm, insult, or single out any person, group, community, or belief. Listener discretion is advised. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I don't know why it's so satisfying to read where people are watching from at 2:37 a.m., but it is. My name doesn't really matter anymore. Maybe it never did. What matters is that you're hearing this, that something inside the wires still carries a voice through the dark. You're tuned to what's left of the radio, broadcasting from a place that barely stands, in a world that barely moves. I don't know how far this signal reaches. I don't know who's out there. But if you're listening, then we're not completely alone. Not yet. It's 2:42 a.m., and the air outside is still holding above 103 degrees. The studio thermometer's stuck again, melted a little around the edges, but the backup sensor by the west wall confirms it. This is the 6th night in a row we've had triple-digit temps after sundown, and it doesn't feel like it's going to let up. No wind, no night birds. Just the soft crackle of dry grass and the way your skin feels like it's wearing a coat of ash. Power's long gone, except for what I can squeeze from the solar batteries and that old diesel generator down in the parking garage. I only run it when I have to. We're almost out of fuel. I rigged a second fan last week, an old desk model with the blades chipped to hell, and it barely pushes the air. But it's enough to stop me from going crazy, just enough to remind me I'm still here. I'm not sure when exactly it started, but I think the first calls I got were out of Missouri. A woman, Kayla, I think, called in around midnight, said her brother was sick. Not a normal sick. He was bleeding from his gums. His skin felt hot and waxy. Doctors didn't know what to do with him. She said he wasn't making sense, kept talking about the sky humming. Then she hung up. I didn't think much of it. People panic. Sometimes they drink too much and call the station to hear a human voice. That was 23 days ago. Now, there's no one answering phones at the hospitals anymore. No ambulances on the roads. I've been calling every emergency frequency I can find, and it's mostly static. The emergency No AA weather station out of Kansas cut off yesterday morning. They were one of the last. They kept broadcasting updates on radiation levels and something they called Class G protein activity until everything went dead. I don't know what a Class G protein is. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a guy sitting in a station with a microphone and too much time to think. But the tone in that last broadcast, it didn't sound like science. It sounded like fear. 2 nights ago, a man walked past the building dragging something behind him. I couldn't see clearly from up here, but it was long. Maybe a pipe, maybe a shovel. He stopped in front of the building and looked up, like he knew someone was here. Didn't say anything. Just stood there in the heat until he finally walked off into the dark. I haven't seen him again. I've started hearing a noise at night. It's not the generator. It's not the fan. It's deeper, almost like something humming just below hearing. It builds right before sunrise, then disappears by morning. I thought I was imagining it, but then someone else mentioned it. A voice I picked up from Arkansas. He said it was like the earth had a pulse, and it was starting to skip beats. I have an old friend named Isaac who used to work at a biotech lab near Austin. We haven't spoken in years, but when I started noticing the patterns, people collapsing in public, the rise in nosebleeds, reports of animals acting strange, I called the old number he gave me. To my surprise, he answered. Voice was tight, like he was whispering through gritted teeth. He said it was man-made. Not ours, he said, but man-made. Bioengineered and adaptive. You can't stop it with a mask or a pill. It doesn't spread like a virus. It spreads like a seed. That was all he had time to say before the line cut. And I haven't been able to get him back since. If anyone out there has seen the trucks, black ones, no plates, 3 antenna towers on top, I've seen them too. They don't use sirens. They move at night. I saw one stop outside a shuttered pharmacy on Polk Street. 2 people got out in suits that looked like something out of a space movie. They didn't go inside to steal anything. They just sprayed something on the door, marked it with blue tape, then drove off. What does blue tape mean? That was 5 nights ago. That pharmacy is now burned down. No one claimed responsibility. No official explanation. Nothing. Just ash and silence. A man named Troy from Albuquerque called last week, said the Colorado River looked different. Not the color, not the level. He said it was quiet. He said the frogs were gone. Fish stopped jumping. He's a retired ranger. Said he's never seen the water that still before. Like something underneath was holding its breath. When did the world start holding its breath? I've had people ask how to survive this. I wish I had answers. I wish I had good ones. Keep your water clean. Don't drink from anything that smells like plastic or metal. I boil mine, then run it through an old coffee filter lined with charcoal from the roof grill. It's not perfect, but I haven't gotten sick yet. If you find canned food, rotate your stock. Use the older stuff first. If the can is bulging or hisses when you open it, toss it. It's not worth the risk. Don't trust any drone that hovers longer than 5 seconds. I don't care what message it's broadcasting. I've seen one drop a gas canister over a group of people waving towels for help. And if someone you know starts speaking in a flat voice, repeating the same phrase over and over, get away. I don't know what that means yet, but I've gotten 5 reports of it. Different states, same behavior. It always ends the same way. Screaming. Then silence. I'm not trying to scare anyone. I really wish I wasn't the one saying these things out loud. But if you're still listening, it means you're still out there. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's the only thing we have left. The voice that says, I'm here. I'll stay on the air as long as the wires hold, as long as the batteries last. This broadcast goes out on 104.7 FM and repeats on the emergency band, 12.31 shortwave if you're scanning the sky with an old ham rig. Tomorrow, if I'm still here, I'll share the message I intercepted from a military signal, bouncing off an old satellite. It wasn't in code. It was a warning. If you have anything to report, if you've seen what I've seen, if your town's changed overnight and no one will talk about it, leave a message on frequency 19. I've got a loop recorder running every hour on the hour, just after midnight. Stay hydrated. Stay in the shade. Cover your mouth if the wind picks up. And don't listen to anyone who says this isn't happening. Because it is, and it's just getting started. It's 4:06 a.m. now. The air is thick. Not just hot, thick, like breathing through cotton soaked in gasoline. The horizon's glowing again. Not the good kind of glow, not morning light. More like a slow fire building behind the clouds. Except there aren't clouds anymore. Haven't seen real ones in a while. Just that haze. That orange-brown smear that coats the sky and makes your eyes sting if you stare too long. I've been watching it every night. It pulses. The fan's barely spinning. I rigged a makeshift cooler from a broken AC and a bag of ice I scavenged from a collapsed gas station freezer 4 blocks over. It lasted less than an hour, just made the sweat wetter. There's no breeze, not even from the vents. I can hear the building creak sometimes, like it's tired too. There was a time when this studio played jazz at night, real jazz, vinyl, not digital. A soundboard operator named Benny used to come in just after 10 and run his fingers along the record sleeves like he was choosing which memory to let out. That was before the wires went weird, before the air got too thick, before the city fell quiet. Someone asked me once what the moment was, when I knew it was all falling apart, not breaking, just bending in a way that doesn't bend back. I think it was the dogs. There used to be a pack that roamed the alley near the station, 5 or 6 of them, all strays, scrappy little things. They barked at shadows, fought over scraps. One night, they just stood still, all of them, looking in the same direction, ears forward, silent. That's when I started locking the doors. Last night I got a signal bounce, very faint, somewhere from the Great Lakes region. Someone calling themselves Red Light Delta, speaking in bursts. It sounded like a military designation, but the language was wrong, too casual, no protocol. They said, Stage 3 confirmed, containment failed, reversion unlikely. Then the signal dropped. I scanned the bandwidth for over an hour. Nothing. Stage 3 of what? I asked a woman once. She was a former virologist, I think. What she thought was happening. This was weeks ago, back when the phone still half worked. She said viruses don't act this fast unless they're built for it. She called it precision acceleration. Said the thing people were catching wasn't mutating randomly. It was moving through stages like it had a plan. She mentioned gene triggers. Something about how certain proteins don't activate until exposed to prolonged heat stress. That stuck with me, because it's been over 100 degrees for 19 days straight. I'm hearing more stories now, not just from the States. Shortwave chatter from outside the continent. Fractured voices. A Canadian station called Station 6B out of Saskatoon went dark yesterday. They were running a loop warning not to touch the sweat. That's all it said. Over and over. Don't touch the sweat. Then static. I don't know what it means yet. 2 hours ago, I saw something moving across the highway overpass near the old mall. Not a car. Not a person either. It was too low, too fast, and it moved like it didn't care what was in its way. Knocked over a stop sign and kept going. I counted the seconds. Whatever it was, it crossed the entire span in under 5 seconds. And then it was gone, into the haze. I don't think we're alone in the way we used to be. This morning, I found a letter slipped under the studio door. No name, just smeared handwriting on a damp envelope. It read, "They're in the pipes. Listen during pressure drops." That's all. I don't know what to make of it, but the water pressure here has been weird. It hisses now before it runs. Sometimes it clicks, like there's something inside it trying to come loose. If any of you out there still have plumbing, listen close. We got a call last night at 1:13 a.m. from someone named Deshawn in East St. Louis. Said he'd been holed up in the back of an old community center with 8 others, 3 of them kids. Power's gone, food's running low, but what got me was his voice. It wasn't scared. It was tired but steady. He said, "We take shifts sleeping. We keep the hall dark and the roof wet. We haven't lost anyone in 4 days." Then he asked me to pass a message. To anyone near Belleville, we're alive. We've got space for 3 more. Bring water if you come. That's what this is for. That's why I keep the transmitter going. Not for warnings, for voices, for the sound of a world that hasn't gone completely dark. I got another message from someone near Des Moines. Young voice. Maybe 16? She didn't leave her name, but she said, "My mom says the virus smells sweet, like mold mixed with flowers, like jasmine, but wrong, too strong." That's the 3rd person to say that this week, that the sickness has a smell. Maybe that's nothing, or maybe it's how it finds you. If you notice a scent that doesn't fit, leave the room. There's been a rise in blackouts, memory blackouts, people waking up on rooftops or in closets with no memory of how they got there. No injuries, no trauma, just missing time. A man named Luis called in from outside Phoenix, said he lost a whole day. Last thing he remembered was checking on his garden. Next thing he knew, the sun was going down and he was barefoot on the roof of a gas station 6 blocks away. He had dirt under his fingernails. A lot of it. He thinks he buried something, but he's too scared to go back and look. If this is part of it, if it's getting into our heads, we need to find a way to track when we lose time. Wear a watch. Leave notes. Make a scratch on the wall every hour. We need breadcrumbs, or we'll lose the trail of who we are. I found a page torn from a newspaper stuck to the fence outside. Date says June 13th. The headline was scrubbed out, but the weather section was still there. Forecast said, "Cooler front approaching from the north. Temps expected to dip below 95. That didn't happen, not even close. They were still printing lies that late? Or maybe they didn't know. Maybe no one knows. I've got half a tank of diesel left, 2 bottles of water, 1 more broadcast before I have to shut down and wait for the panels to charge. I'll be back on tomorrow night, same time, if the heat doesn't melt the lines, if the humming doesn't come back louder, if I don't lose more time. Until then, stay where it's cool, if you can find cool. Boil your water, mark the hours, and if something inside your house starts talking, and you didn't invite it in, don't answer. It's 3:59 a.m. I just woke up on the studio floor. I don't remember falling asleep. There's a cup of water next to me that I don't remember pouring. And the transmitter was already humming when I opened my eyes. That shouldn't be possible. I always power it down between broadcasts to save charge. I checked the panel log. It came back online about 40 minutes ago, and the strange part is, the mic was on, not recording, just live. I don't know if anyone heard anything. I hope not, because I must have been dreaming. Either that, or I was talking in my sleep. The notebook on my desk has a sentence written in my handwriting that I swear I didn't write. It doesn't like the cold. That's all it says. No punctuation, same sentence, repeated on 3 pages. I haven't touched that notebook since yesterday. If that was me, I don't remember doing it. And if it wasn't, well then, I don't know what the hell is going on anymore. Outside, the streets are empty. Even the bugs are quiet. The old train yard lights blink on and off at random, even though the grid's been down for a week. I watch them sometimes, through the security monitor. There's a pattern to the flickering. 4 short, 1 long. Over and over. It's the same pattern I saw painted on a wall 3 blocks down. Block, block, backslash. I don't know what it means. Not yet. But I'm starting to think someone, or something, is leaving these behind. Clues, warnings, or maybe breadcrumbs. I caught a faint relay from someone in Oklahoma City, a pre-recorded loop bouncing off a weather balloon. The voice was female, soft but strained. She said, "Do not burn the infected indoors. The smoke carries it, even after the body is gone." Then the message repeated. That's the third time I've heard warnings about fire. I know it's hard not to burn things. Fire feels clean. It feels final. But if you're hearing this, think twice before you torch anything that bled in a strange way. I know it sounds insane. It probably is. But I've got 4 separate reports now of people getting sick after breathing in smoke from bodies. One was a funeral home in Georgia. Another was a campground in Idaho. The third was here, a few miles north. I saw the black smoke on the 3rd day after the signal fell. It curled up in a tight spiral. The next day, no movement in that neighborhood, just silence. A man named Javier called from somewhere outside Chicago. Said his sister had been helping people at a local rec center. She was one of the last medics still working when the clinic shut down. 2 days ago, she collapsed mid-shift. Blood came out of her ears, but she never stopped moving, not even once. He said her pupils went completely black. She stood up, looked at him like she didn't recognize him, then whispered something he couldn't understand. He said it sounded like a word, but not a word she should have known. Something in a language that wasn't hers. She walked into the street and vanished into the smoke. He hasn't seen her since. If that sounds familiar, if someone you love has done something like that, you're not alone. And I'm starting to think there's a connection between the memory gaps, the black eyes, and the heat. The heat's not natural anymore. I heard an old meteorologist from Dallas say the temperature shifts aren't coming from the sun. He thinks the radiation is internal, like the Earth's crust is releasing something it shouldn't, not carbon. Something older. His words, not mine. He called it an atmospheric cough. He said, "We dug too deep, and we left the windows open." I don't know what he meant, but his line went dead 5 minutes later. I've only got a few more minutes of juice before I need to shut down again. The inverter's running hot, and the fan keeps cutting in and out. I've poured water on the floor under my chair to cool the concrete. It helps. Not much, but enough to keep my head clear. I want to share a message I picked up an hour ago. It came in through a busted emergency scanner I patched together using parts from an old police cruiser parked behind the station. The voice said, "Attention, any remaining personnel along Corridor 89. Containment integrity is lost. Orders have changed. If encountered, do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Evac is no longer priority. All remaining assets are to be denied to the Vector. May God forgive us." Corridor 89. I don't know what that is. I don't know where it is. But the tone in that voice wasn't military anymore. It was desperation wrapped in protocol. And that last line? They don't say that unless everything's broken. Before I go, I want to read a message someone left on the tower antenna console yesterday. They scratched it in with a rusted key. It says, "Tell them we tried. Tell them the water burned." That's it. I'll be back again after sundown if the solar array holds charge. This is 104.7 FM. You're listening to what's left. Stay alert. Stay low. And whatever happens, keep one eye on the sky. It's not just heat anymore. It's movement. It's 2:11 a.m. No wind, no birds, no insects. The fan isn't working tonight. I tried rewiring the coil, but the wire's too brittle. It cracked in my hands like dried spaghetti. I poured a bottle of water into a baking tray and sat my feet in it. The concrete's still warm underneath, like someone left the oven on all day and forgot to turn it off. It hasn't dropped below 100 in almost 2 weeks now. Even the shadows feel hot. There was a body in the road this evening. I didn't see it fall. I didn't see anyone bring it there. But when I climbed onto the roof to adjust the antenna line, it was just there, lying at the corner of 9th and Halstead. No movement. Face down. Pale skin against the cracked blacktop, baking under the sodium glow of a street lamp that somehow still flickers through the grid failure. I watched it for an hour. Then the body turned its head. Not fast. Not like it noticed me. Just slow and steady, like it was listening to something inside the pavement. It didn't move after that. Just lay there again. I haven't gone down to check. I'm not going to. Something about it felt off. I got a call at 12:22 from someone in Columbia, Missouri. A man named Aaron. Said he's been sleeping in the basement of an abandoned daycare for the last 9 days. It's cooler there. Still has some of those blue foam mats stacked near the furnace. He said he covered the windows with trash bags and duct tape. That's kept the heat out. But that's not why he called. He said a little girl showed up at his door last night. 6 years old, maybe 7. Not burned, not sick. Just standing there. She didn't knock. She stared through the mail slot for over an hour. He thought she was lost, maybe left behind. But then she whispered something through the slot. So quietly, he had to press his ear to the door to hear it. She said, "I'm already inside." Then she walked away. He hasn't opened the door since. I don't have an answer for that. I really don't. But if you're listening, Aaron, stay put. Don't let her back in. Not unless she cries. Real tears. Anything else isn't her. The heat does strange things to our minds. It cooks memory like old meat. I forgot my birthday last week. Or maybe it was the week before. I only remembered because I saw my own handwriting on the wall by the power box. 37 years, it says, right under the red fuse switch. I don't even know if that's true anymore. Some nights I catch my reflection in the glass and don't recognize my own face. The skin under my eyes looks stretched, tight like wax paper. My lips are cracked from breathing hot air too long. I'm starting to talk to myself more. Out loud, just to break the silence. Sometimes I answer. We've had reports from across the Rockies, out of Cheyenne, Laramie, even a rancher up near Loveland Pass. They say the cattle are acting strange, herds moving at night, gathering in circles, not sleeping, eyes wide. One rancher swore he saw one of his bulls walk backward for over 30 minutes, tracing the same figure 8 in the dirt. No rope, no fence. Just walked it on its own, like something was guiding it. He said the tracks glowed faintly afterward. Said they stayed warm until morning. If you're seeing patterns in the ground, don't step into them. I know it's tempting. I know they look like signs. But I've had 6 different people call about the same thing, and none of them felt the same afterward. One woman said she couldn't taste anything for days. Another said her dreams started speaking in coordinates. And one man said the sound of his own voice didn't match his mouth anymore. I want to believe this is still biological. I want to believe we're dealing with a virus, a mutation, a lab leak gone wrong. But something's changed. I got a message from a biochemist up in Helena, retired military contractor, said he used to work on agricultural genomics. Back in January, he and his team started noticing abnormal pollen structures from heat-resistant corn hybrids in test fields across the Midwest. Said the structures weren't native, Didn't belong to any engineered strain. Said the pollen was watching. I asked what he meant. He told me he didn't know. Only that when viewed under thermal imaging, the grains didn't behave like particles. They clustered. They moved. They responded to breath. He said something like that shouldn't be able to want anything. Then he hung up. I haven't heard from him since. I checked the old emergency band just after sunset. Most of the towers are dead. 144.2 FM out of Baton Rouge is gone. 92.3 inches in Cincinnati hasn't broadcast in 4 days. 101.5 from Lake Ontario plays nothing but static with a faint clicking sound every 40 seconds. But there's one station still active. 105.9 out of Portland. They're not saying much. Just one phrase, repeated every 10 minutes. Root structures confirmed. Core transmission under soil. Do not dig. I repeat, do not dig. That's it. No coordinates, no ID. Who's transmitting that? And what's under the soil? I think I've figured out why the birds are gone. Not all of them. Some still fly, barely. But the ones that do don't stay in the air for long. I saw one spiral down over the river yesterday and crash into the water. No flapping, no sound, just a straight fall, like gravity doubled mid-flight. When I checked later, its wings were blistered. Feathers fused together like they'd melted. I didn't touch the body. I don't think we should touch anything that comes down from the sky anymore. Something's in the heat. Maybe it rides the air. Maybe it's in the humidity. I've had calls from people in Denver, Boise, and El Paso all report the same thing. The sweat on their skin dries into a fine dust that smells faintly like iron and almonds. One woman said she thought it was just dehydration until she rubbed her arm and the dust sparked. Tiny blue sparks. She sent me a picture before her connection dropped. I still have it on the backup drive. I'm not going to share it. It doesn't feel right. But I will say this. It didn't look like sweat. It looked like something hatching. We used to think infection meant coughing, fever, a rash. We used to think it looked like hospitals and needles. Now it looks like silence. Like heat you can't escape. Like people who stand too still for too long. I'll be back after the panels charge. The power buffer says I've got about 20 more minutes before I go dark. If the grid ever comes back online, I've programmed this station to auto-loop the last 24 hours of transmission. Just in case. Just so this voice doesn't stop all at once. If you're hearing this now, it means there's still a signal somewhere. Still a hand holding down the button. Stay low. Stay hydrated. And don't step in the patterns. They're not just for show. They're part of something growing. It's 3:03 a.m. The air feels like it's trying to crawl into my lungs. I've moved my bedroll down into the station's basement, next to the old water tank. It's 10 degrees cooler down there, maybe 15. Still no breeze, no real ventilation, but at least I don't feel like I'm cooking in my skin. I carry the microphone with me now, hooked to a coiled extension cable and the only working battery rig I've got left. I didn't used to like the sound of my own voice. Now it's the only thing that proves I'm still real. I heard a scream last night, short, 2 seconds, no echo. I looked outside, but nothing moved, not even the rats. I think I'm the only warm thing left in this building. I haven't eaten in 2 days. I'm rationing now, which I should have done earlier. I found an old vending machine downstairs with 3 bags of chips still sealed and a can of peaches so dented it looks like someone punched it. I'm saving the peaches for the end of the week. Maybe a small victory to look forward to. Maybe just a reminder that fruit used to grow on trees. I tried the shortwave relay again, still getting partials. Nothing solid. A signal from eastern Utah broke through for about 10 seconds. A man reciting numbers. 12.8, 61.4, west to east. That's all I caught. Could have been coordinates. Could have been nothing. There was a knock at the back door around 11:30 p.m. Not a loud one, just 3 short taps. Then silence. I waited. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then I whispered, "Who's there?" Nothing. But the door was warm when I finally touched it. Not hot like sun-baked steel. Warm like someone was standing there with their hand pressed to it for a long, long time. I didn't open it. You'd think by now, with everything that's happened, I'd be used to strange things. But there's still a part of me, a stubborn little corner of my brain, that wants to believe in something normal. That the person behind the door was just another survivor. Just someone looking for a radio, or water, or a story. But I don't think normal lives here anymore. I want to share something I picked up on a buried military frequency just before the line degraded. It was fragmented, patchy, but the pieces were clear enough. Classified exposure confirmed. Stage 4 host behavior presents structural change. Containment perimeter breached in all quadrants. Do not respond to vocal mimicry. That last part hit hard. I've gotten 3 different call-ins now, people reporting voices outside their homes that sound like friends or relatives. One woman in Nevada said she heard her dead husband calling her from the front porch. Same tone, same phrases he used to say. "It's warm out here, Em. Just come sit with me." She opened the door. She said what stood there looked like him from the neck down. Same shirt. Same hands. But the face. She said the face was like a mask that hadn't finished printing. She's hiding now, under the floorboards of her pantry. She left the radio on when she whispered the last part. "I don't think it breathes," she said. "It just waits." If you're hearing this, and something outside sounds like someone you love, I need you to remember something important. The voice you remember is not an invitation. It's bait. I don't know how they learn the sounds. Maybe it's from the heat. Maybe it's from the air. Maybe there's more of us out there than we realize, echoing through the walls like ghosts trying to come home. Someone called in from Sioux Falls tonight. Said his brother works in what used to be a waste treatment facility that's been repurposed by survivors. They turned the lower basin into a farm. Not a real farm. Not with soil. They grow fungus on the walls and raise water rats for meat. He said they've rigged UV lamps around the tanks, and they keep them on a rotating timer. The infected, he called them that, can't stand the light. They retreat underground when it flips on. He said something worse than the infected showed up yesterday. He didn't describe it. He just said, "It doesn't blink. And it hums." I asked if he meant mechanical, like a drone or a machine. He said no. Not made by us. Not from anything that breathes. The sound. It's like being inside a storm you can't see. Then the line cut. If anyone else out there is near the old water processing stations, check your generators, check your lights, keep the UV on rotation, and if you hear a sound that makes your teeth itch, don't follow it. Stay underground, stay behind sealed doors. I've been thinking about what the virologist told me, the one from Austin. The one who said the virus was engineered to adapt to heat. She told me something else I didn't share before. She said it wasn't designed to kill. Not at first. It was designed to change things. She said the first wave was just the groundwork, the prep, like softening up the ground before planting a seed. The fevers, the blackouts, the humming. That's just the body's response. The real change happens after the quiet, after the stillness sets in. She said, that's when it takes root. And if the heat keeps rising, if the dust keeps falling the way it is now, then we're going to see what grows next. I watched a man walk into the river yesterday, straight in, fully dressed. He didn't look around. He didn't scream. He didn't even try to swim. He just kept walking until the water closed over his head. I waited. 10 minutes. No bubbles. No sign. I thought I was going crazy. But then, about an hour later, the water shifted again. And something else crawled out. It wore the same clothes, but it didn't move like a man. I know I sound like I'm unraveling. I probably am. I've been alone in this station for 17 days. I've had exactly one human handshake in that time, and it was from a nurse named Victoria who passed through on her way west. She gave me a half-used bottle of isopropyl and a tattered map with circles drawn around cities she said to avoid. Don't go near the ones marked in red, she told me. The signal's stronger there. I asked her what she meant. She didn't answer. She just pointed at her own head and said, it gets louder the closer you get. I've started hearing a hum behind the static, even now. I'll be back after the charge cycle finishes, if the signal holds, if the station doesn't go under, if my voice is still mine when I wake up. This is 104.7 FM, still on the air, still reaching. For now, remember, if they knock, don't answer. If they speak, don't listen. And if they start humming, run. It's 2:39 a.m. Still here. The station's holding for now, though I had to kill the main inverter and switch to the low-draw rig. It's hot enough inside this room to warp plastic. I've wrapped wet towels around the mic arm to stop it from cracking. My hands keep slipping. Everything smells like wires and melted vinyl. The sky hasn't gone dark in days. Not fully. Just hangs there, rust-colored and pulsing like it's waiting for something. No stars, no moon. Just that heavy orange glow pressing down from all directions. People used to call it haze. We know better now. It's not haze. It breathes. I'm going to read a transmission I pulled from the 11.3 emergency band earlier tonight. It was bouncing between towers, real distorted, like it had been relayed too many times. I had to loop it half a dozen times just to transcribe it. This is what it said. Quarantine protocol has failed. Repeat, quarantine protocol has failed. All evac routes compromised. Internal consensus recommends burn zone establishment. Exposure vectors include direct absorption, airborne trace, and dermal contact. Avoid surface residue. Do not enter bloom zones. That phrase again. Bloom zones. I've heard it in 3 different transmissions now. I think I saw one yesterday. A patch of the road just north of the studio had a sort of shimmer to it, like heat waves on pavement but lower, flatter. It wasn't just air distortion. The asphalt itself looked soft, like it was sweating. I threw a bolt into it to test, just a metal bolt, maybe 4 inches long. It hissed, and then it was gone. The surface swallowed it. No splash, no spark, just gone. I marked the edge with a traffic cone and haven't gone near it since. If you see roads that look wet when they shouldn't, avoid them. They're not roads anymore. They're doors. Something's coming through. Got a message on the backup loop an hour ago. Man named Preston, broadcasting from the edge of Lake Mead. Said the water's receding fast, faster than it should. Claimed the lake's pulling itself inward like a sinkhole forming underneath. His words, not mine. He said at night, the air smells like scorched rubber. The trees around the shoreline are turning black. Not burning, just going black, like the green is being replaced. He called it photosynthetic rot. No idea if that's a real thing, but I've had 2 similar reports from Arizona and southern Utah. The desert's going quiet, and the quiet doesn't feel natural. I keep a map on the wall. It's marked in red now. Circles and arrows and ink stains where I've traced where the calls come from, where the messages repeat. There's a pattern, a spiral. It's not perfect, but it's close. Like the infection, or whatever this is following some kind of growth logic. Fibonacci in reverse, expanding outward from a central point. I think the center is somewhere near eastern Kansas. If anyone out there's near Salina, Manhattan, or the Smoky Hills, please check in. Even a static burst, anything. If we can trace the origin, maybe we can understand how to slow it. We had a woman call from southern Mississippi last night. Said she's living in a hunting blind with 2 kids and a propane lantern. They sleep during the day and stay hidden at night. She said the fields are full of people now, just standing, not moving. She tried calling out to them, but they don't answer. They only turn their heads, all at once. She said the kids don't ask questions anymore. They just draw pictures in the dirt, always the same shape, a circle with a line through it, like an eye that's been crossed out. She said they've never seen that symbol before, but they draw it every night. If anyone's seeing that same shape, let me know. I think it means something. I've been having a dream lately. Same one, over and over. I'm in a city I don't recognize. Not tall buildings, low ones. Squat, angular shapes built into the sides of hills. There's no people, just silence and that hot yellow wind. Then I hear it, the humming. Not loud, not angry, just constant, like a dial tone stretched across the sky. In the dream, I look up, and the sky is rippling like cloth underwater. And then I wake up. But I wake up with my mouth dry and my eyes burning, like the heat followed me out of sleep. I've stopped sleeping more than a few hours at a time. Too risky. I want to say something to those of you still listening. You're not crazy. I know this sounds like madness, like the heat has boiled the world until the seams came loose. But I've checked the frequencies. I've read the reports. This is real. It may not look like a plague. It may not march like an army. But it's here. And it doesn't need to chase us. It just needs us to stay still long enough. I got a short note from someone calling herself Kay. No last name. Just an envelope with a dried flower pressed inside and a Polaroid of a burned-over field. On the back of the photo, she wrote, "They're not trying to kill us. They're trying to overwrite us, line by line, breath by breath. We're the draft. They're the revision." I don't know who Kay is, but I believe her. If you feel your skin changing, like it doesn't belong to you anymore. If you hear your name whispered in a voice that sounds too familiar. If the mirrors stop reflecting what you expect. Don't wait. Get underground, get somewhere dark and cold and sealed, and don't take the heat with you. You don't want to see what hatches when it's warm enough. I'll check in again at sunrise if the system holds. If I haven't burned out the last of the charge, I'll patch through to the wideband tower and try to reach anyone still north of the Great Divide. If you're in elevation, stay there. This is 104.7 FM. Still alive. Still transmitting. For now. It's 4:44 a.m. The sun's still under the horizon, but the sky already looks bruised. That same dull orange smear, like something's bleeding under the clouds. If there even are clouds anymore. The birds haven't come back. The dogs have stopped barking. Even the wind feels like it's holding its breath. The temperature inside the station hit 109 today. The water tank downstairs is warm to the touch. I keep the bottles covered with rags dipped in bleach, not because it helps, but because it makes me feel like I'm doing something. The generator coughed twice before it kicked in tonight. I think it's on its last leg. If anyone out there has small engine parts and knows how to rebuild a carburetor from salvaged junk, I'd kill for a call-in, or a diagram, or hell, even a voicemail saying I'm not the only one still trying to keep the lights on. I saw another one of those things today. Not up close. Just at a distance, across the old overpass where the vines used to grow before the soil dried up. It stood still for a long time, head tilted like it was listening, like it heard me breathing through the vents. It didn't move, didn't speak. But I swear to you, it knew I was watching. The face wasn't right, not deformed, not bloody, just empty, like it hadn't decided what face to wear yet. Then it turned and walked into the heat shimmer and vanished. There's something wrong with the ground. I said that before, but I need to say it again, because it's getting worse. Earlier tonight I went outside to check the antenna line, had to reset the tuner. My boots stuck to the asphalt, just for a second. It wasn't melted. It was soft, like stepping on bread dough left in the sun too long. When I pulled my foot up, the sole made a sound I've never heard pavement make before. A sucking sound. I marked the spot with chalk. 5 minutes later, the chalk was gone. It didn't fade. It didn't wash off. It was gone. Like the road absorbed it. I don't think this is about heat anymore. Not just heat. I think the surface is changing. A man named Grant called in from somewhere near Twin Falls, Idaho. Said the rocks in his garden had started growing mold. Not moss, mold. Black, filamentous strands that glowed faintly under the UV light he uses for his tomato starters. He touched it with a gloved hand, said it moved. Not like a bug, he said. Like a thought. I don't know what that means. But I've had 3 more people report the same thing in the last 2 days. Rock growths. Strange fungi. Patterns forming in places where there shouldn't be patterns. A woman from New Mexico called last night. Said her brother was stationed at a research base out near White Sands. She hasn't heard from him in 2 weeks. But yesterday she got a postcard in the mail. No return address. Just a sentence in shaky black ink. Tell them we mapped it wrong. The life is underneath. That was all. The life is underneath. I got a recording earlier from someone who didn't leave a name. A burst transmission. Likely shortwave, patched through by a survivor relay tower in the Cascades. The voice was hoarse. Male. Said, "The temperature spikes aren't random. They correspond to growth cycles. We're not in a wave. We're inside something's metabolism. The air's reacting because the cells are replicating." That's what he said. Cells. Replicating. You ever feel like the world stopped being the world and became something else? Like the rules we grew up with? The science, the physics, the way things decay and grow? just don't apply anymore? I've been thinking about the night I first realized something was wrong. Really wrong. It wasn't the news. It wasn't the reports. It was a silence. Right after midnight, the power had gone out, and I was standing outside the station looking up at the stars. And there weren't any. No stars. Just the soft pulse of something moving behind the dark, like something was between us and the sky, blocking it. And I realized in that moment, I hadn't looked up in days, maybe weeks, because I didn't want to know what I'd see. We're not used to feeling small. Not like this. Not like insects inside a slow wave of heat and silence and time coming apart. We were so sure we had it figured out, that we'd reached the end of the map. But maybe the map was just what we built on top of something older, something deeper. I had a dream again, the humming one. Only this time, I wasn't alone. There were people beside me, all of us walking toward a mountain that didn't have a peak, just kept rising forever, and something on the other side was whispering, not with words, just with pressure, like a voice made out of gravity. And we couldn't turn around. We couldn't even stop walking. I woke up drenched in sweat. There was a note under my pillow. I sleep alone. The note said, "We don't die in heat, we hatch." That's it. I burned it. But I haven't stopped shaking. If anyone else is getting dreams like this, or notes that don't make sense, or waking up with things written on their skin that weren't there the night before, please let me know. We need to start connecting the dots before the pattern finishes drawing itself. Got a call from someone near Pittsburgh. Said the Alleghenies turned black. Said it's not oil, not algae. It's thick, like paint. Birds that land on it don't come back up. Trees near the bank are turning glassy. That's the word she used. Glassy. Like the bark is hardening into something else. Smooth and reflective. She said if you look into the bark, you can see something behind you that isn't there. I don't know what to say to that, except maybe this. Whatever's happening isn't just in the air, it's in the systems, the earth, the reflection, the residue. The water's changing, the ground's changing, and if we're not careful, our minds will change too. I'll be back on the air again before dawn. I don't know how many more broadcasts I've got left. The generator's starting to fail, the radio board's overheating, and my voice feels like it's slipping through sand every time I talk. But I'll stay here, as long as something listens. This is 104.7 FM. If you're still human, stay alert, stay inside, stay cool, and for the love of whatever's left, don't answer the voice that sounds like you. It's not you. It never was. It's 3:26 a.m. The heat's bad tonight. Bad in a way that makes the air feel electric, like you're walking through a field right before lightning hits. I've shut all the windows, covered every crack I can find with insulation foam and wet towels. But it still seeps in. It's not just the temperature anymore. It's pressure, like something pushing from the outside, trying to fold the walls inward. My ears keep popping. I haven't changed elevation. I haven't even left the building. I think it's the air itself. The density is wrong. It hums when I sit still. I tried to record it, but the microphone won't pick it up. Only I can hear it, or maybe not just me. A caller from Oklahoma left a message an hour ago. Said he could hear something beneath the soil. Not worms, not water, something deeper. He tried to dig, just a little, maybe a foot and a half down. The dirt bled. Not red, not black. He said it was the color of old rust and smelled like hot meat. He covered the hole back up. Didn't sleep all night. I've started seeing things at the edge of the building. Shadows mostly. Moving wrong. Not flickering like shadows should. These stay still while everything else moves. One sat against the wall of the loading dock for over 6 hours today. Didn't shift. Didn't stretch. Just clung to the concrete like a stain made of silence. It's still there. I don't know if it's watching me or if it is me. There was another recording from the 92.3 shortwave loop, someone in Ontario. A voice repeating a phrase I've heard once before. "We are the mold beneath your cities." Then a different voice, slower, raspier. "Your bones are not your own." It kept looping for nearly 20 minutes before the line cut. I don't know if it was hacked or real, but it made my skin crawl. I keep thinking about what that scientist said, the one from Helena, that this isn't a virus in the normal sense, that it's not just about illness, it's about form. It doesn't want to kill, it wants to replace. I keep going back to that word, overwrite, like we're just a first draft. And it's editing. The broadcasts from southern Texas are all gone. Nothing out of San Antonio or Houston. Just one loop left playing from what used to be a Coast Guard station near Corpus Christi. A monotone voice reading what sounds like an evacuation order, but the words have started to slur together. Not from damage, from corruption. Like the message is unraveling. Evacuation Zone 467, you have been updated to error. Unit does not recognize heat threshold, threshold, threshold. Then silence. Then the same phrase, over and over. Seed complete. I don't know what that means, but I don't like how it feels in my mouth. I got a hand-drawn map in the mail chute earlier today. I haven't opened the chute in a week. I locked it from the inside, but it was sitting there, folded neatly, with a paperclip, red ink, circles drawn over major cities, not with X's, just spirals, little snail shell shapes like the kind you find in tide pools. At the bottom was one sentence. You are not inside the outbreak. You are inside the organism. That's not a metaphor. I think someone meant it literally. That what we're seeing, this heat, this silence, this pressure, is the internal structure of something massive and alive. Someone from West Virginia called in tonight, said the mountains are too quiet, said even the cicadas are gone. Said you can hear your own heartbeat echo if you stand in the middle of an empty road. She whispered the rest. There are trees now that don't match any species I've ever seen, and the bark moves when you look away. She didn't sound panicked, just tired. Like she'd been speaking quietly for too long and couldn't remember how to raise her voice. I get it. Some days I forget how to sound human. I talked to an old friend yesterday. His name's Oliver. Used to be a power station tech out in Kansas City. Haven't heard from him in weeks. Then yesterday, his voice crackled through one of the buried relays. Shortwave. Off-grid. He said he's underground now. An old fallout shelter built back in the 50s. He said something's wrong with the infrastructure. He wasn't talking about pipes or wires. He was talking about the shape of things. He said when he reviewed the old city blueprints, the original layout of roads and sewers and utility tunnels, he noticed curves that weren't architectural. He said they were organic, like the planners were copying something they didn't understand. He sent me an image, a scan of a sewer line built in 1939. The layout looks like a digestive tract, not metaphorically, literally. He thinks cities are the first step in a larger transformation, like veins feeding something, or roots. He said, what if we didn't build them? What if they were always here, waiting? The line cut after that. I haven't been able to raise him since. If there's anyone out there with old city schematics, especially from before the 1950s, compare them to what you see now. Look for spirals. Look for patterns that mimic biological systems, circulation, respiration, digestion. If this organism is real, if it's global or even continental, we need to understand where we are inside it. Because right now, I think we're near the gut. And guts don't forgive. I'll be back just after 6 a.m., if I'm still clear. I've rigged a cooling vent using a broken air compressor and a freezer door. It's not perfect, but it buys me an hour. If you're out there, if you're alive, drink water, avoid the shimmer, and stay off the roads that feel soft beneath your feet. This isn't a heat wave. It's something else. Something waking up. And we're not outside of it. We're under its skin. It's 2:52 a.m. The metal on the chair creaks every time I shift. Not from weight, just expansion. Steel shouldn't flex like this. Not at night. Not when the sun's been down for hours. But the heat doesn't leave anymore. It settles. Sits heavy on your back like wet clothes. The floors upstairs have started to buckle. The tiles snap one by one like bones under pressure. There's no breeze outside. No cars. No dogs. No insects. I can't remember the last time I heard a bird. I keep the curtains drawn now, not because of light. There's barely any of that left. But because sometimes I see people standing out there. Just one or two. Quiet. Too still. I never see them arrive. I never see them leave. Just long silhouettes under the burned-out lamplight, watching the studio. I don't go near the windows anymore. There was a power flicker around midnight, just for a second. The breaker tripped itself back on even though I'd locked the circuit open. That shouldn't be possible. When the lights flashed on, every monitor showed the same thing. My face, frozen on the security feed, looking into the camera. Only, I hadn't been at the camera. I'd been in the basement, checking the water tank. It was only up for 3 seconds before the system wiped itself. I checked the cache. There's no record of the feed. No footage. Just a power surge log with the note. External handshake initiated. If anyone out there knows what that means, I'd like to know, because I sure as hell didn't shake anything. I heard from a man named Travis out near Mobile. Said he's a mechanic turned prepper, living in a half-sunk fishing boat tied off inside an old marina. He's got solar panels, rain collection, and a freezer that runs off a rigged bicycle generator. Said he's been alone for 3 weeks. Said the water's been rising in ways that don't match the tides. Last week, he saw ripples in the bay even though the wind was still. Then the pelicans started flying in circles, not gliding, flapping hard, like something below was pulling them down. That night, he said the hull of his boat got warm, not from the sun, from below. He moved everything to the upper deck. He ended the call with this: "If it comes through the water, I'm not going under. I'll burn the whole damn thing before I let it take me." I don't blame him. I heard from a survivor in Minneapolis. Young voice, maybe 20. said she and a group of students have taken over the top 5 floors of a government building. They blocked off the stairwells. The elevators haven't worked in weeks. They have a hand crank to pull up supplies. They've been harvesting rooftop rainwater using old vinyl signs and garbage bags. She said the air up there is clearer, not cooler, just less thick. They call it dry breath. They think the infection, or whatever this is, clings to moisture, that it rides on particles in sweat and fog and condensation. They've started drying everything they touch in the sun before bringing it inside. She said something else. Said they've stopped using mirrors, because the reflections aren't matching anymore, not all the time. Sometimes the version in the mirror keeps smiling after you stop. Sometimes it doesn't look tired the way you do. Sometimes it mouths words you're not saying. They've covered all reflective surfaces with blackout cloth. She told me her name was Margot. Then she laughed and said, or at least, I was Margot. Not sure anymore. I get it. Names feel strange now. Like currency from a country that doesn't exist anymore. I had a dream last night. A quiet one. I was walking through a grocery store. No people. No sound. The shelves were full, but everything was labeled the same. MEAT. All caps. Black block letters on white paper. Even the cereal boxes. I opened a can and it screamed. Not a loud scream. Just a soft human sound, like someone breathing wrong into a phone. When I woke up, my teeth were bleeding. That's new. I heard from someone in Alaska. Yes. Alaska. He said he's been listening for 2 weeks. Said the heat's reaching even up there now, that the permafrost's cracking like glass, that shapes are forming in the melt. He said bones are rising. Human bones, but different. He didn't explain how. He just said, they're older than us, and they're not done. I don't know what that means, but I can feel it in my chest. Something in the air is folding time, bringing things up that should have stayed buried. Maybe this isn't a virus in the way we thought. Maybe it's memory. Maybe the world itself is remembering something it once was, and dragging us along for the ride. I keep coming back to something a survivor said in an earlier call. The woman from Des Moines. She said, it's not killing us. It's digesting us. That word again. Digest. She said, if we're inside something, it doesn't care about who we were. It just wants to break us down, use the pieces. And the scary part? That doesn't feel evil. It just feels efficient. Like a stomach doesn't hate the food it eats. I know this is hard to hear. I know it feels like the world cracked open and we fell through into something else. But I want to remind you of something. Even now, even with all of this, we are still here. You and me, on the wire, between the towers, between the tremors and the silence. We are still here. You're hearing me. I'm hearing you. And that means the rewrite isn't finished. Not yet. Not while we're still writing our own names in the dark. I'll broadcast again after the sun rises. If the station holds. If I still remember how to speak. If you're listening, record this. Repeat it. Build your own signals. We can still echo, even if we're surrounded. Even if we're swallowed, we can still echo. It's 3:38 a.m. I can't feel the tips of my fingers, not from cold, from heat. They've been numb for hours, like the nerves just stopped carrying messages. I dipped them in the backup water tub, and the skin looked lighter. Not pale, thin, like it's starting to forget how to be skin. I haven't opened the outside door in 3 days. The locks are rusted, and the hinges have gone soft from the heat. I pushed a crate up against it just in case. It doesn't feel like enough. I've started hearing something else over the signal lines. Not voices, not static. Just a low droning sound, like a swarm of bees trapped behind concrete. But it pulses, like a heartbeat. It syncs with the silence between clicks on the shortwave relay. A listener from Wichita called in an hour ago. He said the same thing. It hums, he said. It knows when you're listening. I've switched antennas 3 times and scrubbed the boards. Nothing gets rid of the noise. I think it's embedded in the signal now, a kind of background radiation, auditory and alive. I don't think it's just interference. I got a voice message from someone calling herself June. Said she's a lab tech from Baton Rouge or what's left of it. She and 3 others are hiding in the back of a veterinary clinic. Said they found something in the samples left behind by the CDC response team. She said it's not a virus. Not in the way we define it. It's a protein strand with quantum binding properties. Something that shouldn't exist outside of a lab. Something that doesn't mutate randomly, but responds to thought. Her words, not mine. She said it knows what you fear. That's how it moves. Not through breath, not through blood, through recognition. She said if you name it, if you talk about it too much, it finds you. Then the message ended. I've gone back and played it a few times. On the 3rd loop, there was a soft click halfway through, like someone else was listening in. I've unplugged the backup speaker system. If you're receiving this through a digital repeater, check your logs. Look for irregular timestamps. Look for duplicated messages. If something plays twice in perfect rhythm and you didn't cue it, it wasn't you. I heard from a man named Simon in rural Utah. He said his well started running cold again. That would have been good news, except he never had a well. He found it in the center of his field, surrounded by dried grass that hadn't grown in months. A circle of dirt, untouched, perfectly round. Inside, fresh water. Clear, cold. He drank it. Now he says he hasn't slept in 6 days. And the veins in his hands glow faintly at night. He said he can see things when he closes his eyes. Maps, patterns, veins. He said he's scared, but he can't stop drinking it. He's never felt better. He said the water sings to him. If anyone else has found cold water where it shouldn't be, don't drink it. Not yet. Not until we know what's down there. Another call came through just before midnight. I didn't catch the name, but the voice was shaking. She said her town, somewhere near Akron, I think, has gone completely dark. Not just power outage. Dark, like there's no light left inside it. People walk, but they don't speak. Cars sit with the doors open. Radios hum static. She said the sun doesn't rise there anymore. Not like it used to. Just a dull red smear on the horizon that never gets higher than a hand's width. She said people are burying radios in their backyards, afraid of what they're hearing at night. One man dug a hole and found 20 radios already buried, none of them his. All tuned to 104.7. I've never broadcast that far east. Something is rebroadcasting me, or echoing me. If this isn't live, if I'm not live, then maybe I'm just part of the loop now. And maybe you are too. I keep thinking about what that guy said, the one from the mountains who called in after his wife stopped sleeping. He said she started tracing shapes on the wall with her fingers, circles, spirals, loops. Then she stopped eating. Then she stopped moving. But she kept breathing. He left her in the house with all the windows boarded up. He visits sometimes, talks to her through the door. Said last time, she whispered something back, but the voice wasn't hers. It was his. I've started hearing my own voice in the speakers when the system's idle. It says things I don't remember saying. A few minutes ago it said, "You're on the inside now." I didn't touch the mic. I haven't moved from this chair. If anyone out there has seen reflections speak without sound, or heard their own voice when their mouth is shut, please check in. Leave a message on the relay. You don't even have to say much. Just say, "I heard it too." That'll be enough. We need to know who's still real. We need to know which voices are still ours. A group near Flagstaff is building a signal tower using scavenged parts from weather stations and old HAM gear. They've found a way to create localized dead zones, places the hum can't reach. They use copper mesh and freezing units pulled from refrigerated trucks. It works for about 10 hours at a time, just enough to sleep. They call it the freeze net. They're inviting anyone with refrigeration equipment or knowledge of old analog radio systems to join. The only thing they ask is that you don't come alone. Not because of safety. Because the hum can wear a face if you're alone too long, and it's easier to trick you when no one else is watching. I'll be back again after dawn if I can. I'm going to shut down the board for an hour and let it cool. The battery pack's warped. I think it's starting to melt from the inside. This is 104.7 FM. Still alive. Still on. Still listening. If the hum reaches you, don't speak its name. If your voice stops matching your thoughts, record something now while you still know it's you. And if you hear the transmission loop back on itself, don't wait for it to finish. Turn it off. Turn everything off. And listen to the silence instead. That's where we'll find the truth. That's where we'll still be real. It's 3:08 a.m. I've been watching the sky peel open for the last 20 minutes. That's what it looks like now, like peeling. Like the upper atmosphere has turned to dried paint, and something behind it is pressing outward. There's no lightning, no thunder, just a pale, sick-colored light that pulses once every 8 or 9 seconds. And the clouds, if they're even clouds, don't move anymore. They sit in place like they've been nailed to the sky. Heavy, swollen, grayish-green, like they're full of something that isn't weather. The building's hotter than usual tonight. I poured the last gallon from the reserve tank over the floor. It sizzled when it hit the concrete. The fan's dead, completely burned out. The motor casing warped like taffy. I'm using the solar cell reserve line just to keep this mic active. I don't know how long it'll last. I got a call from somewhere in Kentucky, woman named Lena. She sounded young, said she's hiding in the back of a feed supply warehouse with her brother and a dog that won't stop shaking. Said the dog used to bark at everything, cars, raccoons, even thunder. Now it doesn't make a sound. It just sits by the door and stares into the dark. She said she's seen something walking through the cornfields. Not big, not fast. Just slow enough to always be behind her no matter which way she turns. She doesn't think it has feet. Said the stalks don't part. They just go limp when it moves. I asked her if it's still there. She didn't answer, but I could hear breathing. I've been thinking about the word we keep using, outbreak. We say it like it's still contagious, like there's a patient zero. And if we trace the lines backward, we'll find a mistake to correct. But the more I hear, the more I see. I don't think this broke out of anything. I think it broke in, like a signal passed through a crack in the shell of the world. I got a scrap of paper shoved through the side door late yesterday. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear a knock, just the low metal screech of the chute and a fluttering sound. I unfolded it carefully. The paper was brittle and damp, like it had been soaked in something other than water. The handwriting was jagged, slanted upward at a strange angle. It said, "It's not heat, it's gestation. Nothing else, not even a name. If that's true, if the world is being used to grow something, not just burn something off, then we need to stop thinking like survivors and start thinking like a body being repurposed. That's not metaphor, that's biology." I got a ping from someone on the east side of Denver. A group of 5 holed up in a dry storage bunker below a collapsed food depot. They're short on water but found a stash of old MREs behind a rusted bulkhead. They've been taking turns sleeping, rotating watches. They sent out a warning. There's a frequency. Someone out there rebroadcasting false evacuation orders. Very official sounding. FEMA tags. Military jargon, but they said the math's wrong. The coordinates don't line up. The phrasing doesn't match standard op templates. Worse than that, they say it loops. Every 3 hours. On the dot. If you're hearing a voice offering shelter, and it sounds too calm, too clean, check your timestamp. If it matches exactly, if there's no deviation, no error, no breath, it's not real. Someone, or something, is using the old stations to call people out into the open, and people are answering. I heard from a man named Bernard, out in Northern California. He said his sister walked into the woods after hearing their mother's voice on the radio. Their mother's been dead 5 years. She never came back. He waited 3 nights. Then he followed the trail. He found her boots, neatly placed at the base of an oak tree. No footprints beyond that, but the bark of the tree had handprints, pressed in, like clay. He doesn't sleep anymore. I don't either. I've started writing my name on the wall every morning, just to remind myself I'm still me. I won't say it here. It doesn't matter anymore. But it helps to trace the letters, to see them in my own hand. If I stop recognizing it, I'll know. I think that's how it starts. The forgetting. Then the voice changes. Then the skin. Got a late-night call from someone in Montana. He didn't give a name. Just said he used to be an acoustics engineer. He's been studying the hum. He built a sound trap, old speaker cones, vibration sensors, some kind of analog hardware I didn't catch the specs on. He recorded a pulse deep in the low-frequency bands, barely audible but consistent. He slowed it down. He said there's a pattern underneath it. Not Morse, not code, language. He said he played it backward. Then he stopped talking for 15 seconds. When he spoke again, his voice was different. He said, "It's not for us. It never was." Then the line went dead. I haven't tried decoding it. Not yet. I'm scared of what I'll hear. There's a girl named Camille in Wisconsin who says she's been sleeping underground for 9 days. Her group rigged an old tornado shelter with UV lamps and copper mesh around the walls. They're calling it the greenhouse. Said the infection, or the heat, or whatever's behind all this, can't penetrate through thick soil and active airflow. She said the silence underground is different. Not safer, just thinner. She hears breathing sometimes, from above or below, but she stays down there anyway. Said she'd rather listen to her own fear than whatever's up top pretending to be the sky. That makes sense to me. A listener from Spokane called to say the traffic lights have started blinking again. No power, no control system, just blinking, red, then green, always in the direction of the nearest overpass. She followed it once, said she saw people lined up beneath the bridge, all facing the same direction, all humming in rhythm. Then one turned to her, same face as her daughter, but her daughter died last fall. She ran, hasn't left the basement since. She keeps the lights off now, says light brings the patterns, says dark is safer. I don't know anymore. I keep one light on in the control room, just one. I don't trust silence completely, but I don't trust reflection either. I've covered all the glass. There's something wrong with the reflections. Sometimes I see something over my shoulder that disappears when I turn. Sometimes I see a second me, blinking out of sync. I don't know what to believe, but I know this. We're not sick. We're not at war. We're being changed. We're being taught a new way to be, and some of us are listening. If you still feel like yourself, if you still cry when you remember the world before, you're not gone yet. You're still real. Keep it that way. Hold on to pain. Hold on to names. Hold on to the sound of your own voice, because the hum will take all of it if you let it. I'll be back tomorrow. If the air holds, if my voice stays mine, if the signal doesn't fold into something else. This is 104.7 FM. Still alive, still human, still listening. It's 4:19 a.m. I've stopped marking the days, not because I lost track, but because they don't feel separate anymore. The heat doesn't rise and fall. It just exists. Constant. Heavy. You start to forget what cold air felt like. You remember in fragments, like the way it felt to stand inside a grocery store freezer. The sound of ice cracking in a glass. Goosebumps. They don't happen anymore. I pressed my hand against the cinder block wall an hour ago. It felt soft, not warm, soft. Like whatever makes a wall solid isn't working the same way anymore. It didn't dent, didn't give, but it didn't push back either. I think the world's losing tension. That's the best way I can say it. I got a call from someone near the Georgia border. Said the bugs have stopped flying. No gnats, no mosquitoes. Said they found piles of insect wings in their front yard. Just the wings, all scattered in a ring. The bodies were gone. Said the plants in their garden still move when the wind's dead still. One of them bent toward the door last night and stayed that way, like it was listening. I don't think this thing is done evolving. I think it's just getting started. I got a report from someone near Detroit, industrial zone. She said a cluster of old radio towers lit up just after midnight. No power, no grid, no solar input. They just came on, one by one, pulsing red, not blinking, pulsing, like they were breathing. She tracked the pattern and realized they were following the rhythm of her heartbeat, slowed down by a factor of 3. She said she stood still and held her breath, and the towers stopped. When she exhaled, they flared again. She hasn't gone back since. I think we're looking at the wrong kind of invasion. Not military, not even viral, adaptive, reflexive. Whatever this is, it mirrors. It doesn't break in. It waits for us to open the door. Had someone call in from Amarillo, said they found a church where the congregation never left. Not alive, just seated in their pews, dressed in Sunday best, skin leathery from the heat, eyes missing, hands folded, said the pastor's voice still echoes through the speakers, even though the mic's been torn out. He doesn't talk scripture. He repeats names, first names, thousands of them. Some match the missing reports from nearby towns. Some don't. She tried to write a few of them down. By the time she got home, the paper was blank. I know that sounds impossible, but the same thing's been happening here. Messages that vanish, logs that erase themselves. I tried to play back yesterday's broadcast and got nothing but silence. Not even static. Just absence. I think the system remembers too much, and now it's starting to delete to survive. Or something else is deleting for it. A listener from Portland said they've started mapping the shadows. That's all they do now. They go out before dawn, before the air gets heavy, and they chart the length and shape of every object's shadow. They say the shadows are getting sharper, cleaner, more perfect. They don't blur at the edges like they used to. They don't shift when the light does. It's like the shadows aren't responding to light anymore, but to us. They're calling it inverted light behavior. I don't know what to make of that. All I know is that last night, my shadow reached the corner of the wall and didn't stop. It bent and disappeared around the edge, like it walked away. Got a message from someone near Boise. Said they found a man standing in the middle of a dried-up creek bed, wearing headphones, holding an old cassette recorder. The tape inside was empty, but he kept whispering, "Still recording, still recording, still recording." They tried to lead him away. He didn't move. He just smiled, and blood came out of his ears. They left him there. Said he's probably still standing, still recording, still smiling. I think this thing is attracted to memory, not thoughts. Memory. That's why the signal changes when we play it back. That's why reflections stop matching. Because whatever this is, it doesn't just want to be in the present. It wants to root itself in our past. It wants to rewrite where we came from. Maybe that's how it spreads. Not by touch, not by air, but by story. I know this sounds impossible. I know some of you think I'm just tired, or heat sick, or alone too long in the dark. But I've been playing this game long enough to feel the difference between madness and design. And this feels designed. Got a call from a man who used to work in biowarfare detection systems. Said back in 2026, there was a lab that started receiving anomalous protein packets in their intake filters. Not viral, not bacterial, just coded. He said the structure wasn't organic, it was information. He said, something was testing our air, and we never noticed. They ran a few simulations, tried to replicate it. 2 of the researchers died of seizures. The rest reported recurring dreams of open mouths filled with dirt. The project was shut down, buried. He said this wasn't a surprise. It was an experiment that finally worked. He called it the trigger bloom. He said the atmosphere isn't infected. It's active, like a nervous system waiting to be touched the right way. And now we've done it. We've touched the wire, and the signal's alive. If any of you have found places that feel untouched, cooler zones, shadows that don't echo, walls that don't hum, mark them, guard them, don't speak over them, don't play recordings, just sit, be quiet, be still, let the world forget you for a little while. That might be the only way to stay real. I'll be back at dawn if the station holds. I've got 2 solar batteries left. The third one burst last night. Acid leaked onto the backup generator. I had to clean it with bleach and a torn-up shirt. The smell's still in my skin. If you're out there, if you still remember your own name, write it down. Say it out loud. Tell it to the walls. Because something else is trying to name you. And once it does, you won't belong to yourself anymore. This is 104.7 FM. Still real, still resisting, still here. It's 3:47 a.m. I almost didn't make it back on tonight. The southern wall gave out around midnight. Not a full collapse, just enough to breathe wrong. The heat poured in like floodwater. The temperature inside rose by 12 degrees in under 10 minutes. I pulled everything I had into the corner with the lowest ceiling, insulation panels, metal sheeting, even old broadcast foam. The air turned heavy, syrup thick. I threw up twice, couldn't catch my breath. My ears started ringing. I thought it was blood pressure, but when I covered my ears, I could still hear it. Same pitch I've been tracking in the hum. Only this time, it wasn't faint. It was inside the walls, inside the wires, inside me. It's gone quiet again now, for the moment. But the silence feels wrong, like a room waiting for someone to open the door. I got a call from someone in Nebraska. She said the horizon changed. Not visually, structurally. Said she used to see the grain silos when she woke up. Now the land looks curved, not like a hill, like a lens, like everything's being viewed from beneath a dome that wasn't there yesterday. She says her compass spins now. Her phone still works on airplane mode, but the clock keeps resetting to 13:13. She tried driving out, made it 6 miles before the road looped back. She recognized the same roadkill, the same mailbox, the same half-burned billboard. Everything looped, but the sky above her kept getting darker. She turned around. Back home, the house had grown taller. She counted the windows. There were more. I don't know what kind of infection causes buildings to change shape, but I think we're past that word now. This isn't infection. This is absorption. We're inside something that's learning how to imitate us. Not perfectly, just enough to make us doubt what was real. I got a handwritten letter from someone near Santa Fe. It came wrapped in cloth, sealed with wax like something from 100 years ago. The paper was thick, unlined, faintly yellow. The message said, "It doesn't spread through biology. It spreads through belief." It went on to say that the more people fear it, the more room it has to grow. That every broadcast, every warning, every voice speaking about it out loud feeds it. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop. Because silence is worse. Silence gives it all the room it needs. At least with a voice. Any voice. We remind it that we're still thinking for ourselves. Even if it's listening. Especially if it's listening. I got an old ham relay transmission from a man on the southern edge of Chicago. He's been alone in a broadcast tower since day 12. Hasn't seen anyone in person in over a month. He said the birds came back, but they're wrong. They don't flap. They glide in place, hover just above the rooftops, don't make a sound, don't blink. One of them followed him for 4 blocks, through alleys, across rooftops, around turns. When he finally stopped, it was already perched on his fire escape. He took a picture. When he developed the film, there was no bird. Just a faint outline of something spiraled, like muscle fiber caught in a twist. He stopped photographing after that. Just speaks now, just like me. There's a group in Idaho using old rail tunnels to move between towns. They say the virus, or whatever's adapting out there, can't navigate metal that's been rusted longer than 50 years. They call it the patina rule. No one knows why, but it tracks. The newer tunnels, steel reinforced, polished, GPS tagged, are full of heat and echo. The old ones are cold, silent, safe. They use kerosene lamps and chalk to leave messages. That's all that works now. Ink runs, paper burns. Only stone remembers. One of them etched something into the wall outside a collapsed junction box. A sentence. If it can see you, it can hear you. If it can hear you, it already knows your name. They stopped speaking above ground 2 weeks ago. They write, they gesture, they nod. They've learned to live in pantomime. And somehow, they're doing better than the rest of us. Maybe that's what we need to remember. The world got loud. Too loud. We screamed into our phones, into our feeds, into every corner of digital space, and something screamed back. Now it's listening. Now it knows how to speak like us. I got a call from someone in a part of Arizona that's turned wrong. She didn't even say a town name, just that the earth hums under her shoes and the trees tilt at the same angle no matter where she looks. She walked for 2 hours and realized the sun never moved. Not once. She stood still, and her shadow slid sideways across the dirt like it had somewhere else to be. She said she's not going to leave anymore. Not because she's trapped. Because she doesn't want to see what happens if she tries again and the world lets her. I understand that. There's something worse than a locked door. A door that opens too easily. I've been thinking about that more lately. How doors are just agreements. Thin ones. Between what we are and what waits outside. I used to believe in thresholds, in locks, in choice. But now I think we're in a house that never had walls. And the world's just waking up to that fact. If you're still listening, check your own space. Does the mirror match you? Does your voice sound like yours? Does your clock move forward? Does your floor stay hard beneath your feet? If any of that changes, write it down. Not on a screen, not on a drive, on something that can't be rewritten. And hide it, because the thing replacing us, it doesn't care about fear. It feeds on pattern. It grows through certainty. I'll be back soon. 104.7 FM. Still a voice, still a body, still remembering. It's 5:06 a.m. I haven't eaten since yesterday, maybe the day before. It's hard to tell. The food I have left doesn't taste like food anymore. Even the canned stuff. Texture's still fine, smells okay, but it feels like chewing memory foam, like something got stripped out of it, the part that connects it to being real. I found an old energy bar under the desk earlier, still sealed. When I cracked it open, it didn't make a sound. That shouldn't happen. The wrapper's supposed to hiss. Population something. This one was silent. I didn't eat it. I tossed it into the trash, and a second later I heard something crunch. Like teeth. I haven't gone near the bin since. The generator's wheezing again. The fan's pulling too much load, and I think the battery gel's separating. I rerouted the bypass to keep the mic hot. If you're still hearing me, then the relay's intact. For now. I got a shortwave message from someone in the Dakotas. Said their basement wall started seeping something. Clear, oily, no smell. They thought it was groundwater until they touched it. Said it felt like skin. And when they pulled their hand back, the wall twitched. They covered it in concrete. 3 layers, but the shape behind it keeps pressing outward. Same shape, same height as a person. They started sleeping upstairs. Then last night, they woke up to the sound of tapping on the window. They live on the 2nd floor. They haven't looked outside since. I think it's learning to find us even when we hide. I think it's mimicking doors now, walls, even people. A group in Michigan has stopped calling themselves by names, not because they're scared, but because the thing is using names as keys. They say it listens, remembers, associates identity with pattern. They use numbers now, or whistles, or light pulses. They're building a language out of silence and movement, and they're doing okay. They rigged a radio with a manual crank and a thermal resistor, sending out code blips through an old TV antenna. Not messages, just patterns. Randomized. They say it confuses the thing, like throwing noise into a machine learning loop. No shape, no goal, just chaos. They call it static immunity. It's the only thing that's bought them peace. I heard from a man outside Dallas. He's alone in an elementary school, sleeping in the nurse's office. He keeps every intercom line running. Said he needs the sound. Doesn't care what it is. Hums, drips, echoes. Anything that confirms the building isn't completely dead. But last night, all the speakers clicked on at once. All 32 of them, and they didn't hum. They whispered his name, over and over, each one in a different voice. One of them was his own. He turned off the breakers, but the sound kept going. Only stopped when he smashed every speaker with a fire extinguisher. He hasn't slept since. He says he's not scared, just tired. But you can hear it in his voice. He's scared. We all are. A signal came in through a maritime frequency. Unregistered boat, no name, somewhere off the Oregon coast. The voice said they've been drifting along a line of glowing water. Said it started about 80 miles west, just a faint shimmer beneath the surface. Now it stretches for over 20 miles, bright as headlights. Fish float along the edges, not dead, just still, like they're listening. They dropped a camera rig, sent it 30 feet down. The light was coming from a shape, something woven, organic, like coral or tendons. It pulsed when they got too close. The feed cut out. They tried to pull it back, but the cable snapped. Steel cable. They're heading back toward land now, or trying. But the compass won't stop spinning, and they say the glow is following them. I don't think it's just on land anymore. I think it never was. A few hours ago, I lost time. I looked up and the clock said 5:04. Then again, 5 minutes later, still 5:04. My hands were on the desk. Same position, same posture. No memory of blinking. No sense of breath. Just skipped. Like the world paused and resumed me where it left off. I've marked the wall with every hour since I started broadcasting. There's a break in the marks, a blank spot. That blank used to have writing in it. I don't remember what. I think it took something from me. Something small. Something I wouldn't notice until it mattered. Like a name, or a song I used to hum, or a face I loved. I can't be sure, but I know this. There's a hole in me now, and something is watching it. A woman from Reno called. She said her reflection reached out. Not metaphor, not illusion. She leaned in to check a fever blister, wiped the mirror clean. Her hand stayed still. The reflections didn't. It reached forward and touched the inside of the glass. then smiled. She smashed it, covered every mirror in the house. But she says sometimes she still sees that smile. In spoons, in puddles, in polished doorknobs. I believe her. Reflections aren't passive anymore. They're messages, and they're being sent by something that doesn't need eyes. If you're still using screens, tape them, crack them, dust them up. Do whatever you can to distort the image. Clarity is dangerous now. Clarity gives it shape, and once it has shape, it wants more. I'll be back soon. When the air cools, when the generator stops coughing, when the lights stop flickering just out of sync with each other. This is 104.7 FM. Still signal, still sweat, still sane, I think. If you're still human, say nothing for 10 seconds after this ends. That's all. 10 seconds of silence. If something else speaks during that silence, don't answer. Just remember who you are and hold on. It's 2:59 a.m. Something's wrong with the station's clocks again. All 5 of them stopped at exactly 2:59. Even the analog one I keep on the wall just for backup. The second hand's twitching, like it's trying to move, but something's holding it back. I check the system logs. There's a 3-minute chunk of dead time between the last 2 transmissions. No signal. No power fluctuation. Nothing. Like the world forgot to exist for 3 minutes. I didn't notice anything at the time. But now I've got a headache behind my eyes, and I keep smelling burnt plastic. Except nothing's burning. I opened the back door to check for heat leaks and saw the sky flickering. Not lightning, just soft pulses of blue-white light, moving across the clouds like veins under skin. They pulsed 3 times, then stopped. Then everything went quiet. Even the crickets. Even the walls. I think it was listening. A call came in an hour ago. Guy didn't say where he was, just that he was near a highway with no signs. Said the road was coated in a fine gray dust, like ash but colder. Said he followed it for miles and never saw a single vehicle, but he kept hearing horns. Long, drawn-out honks. Not from nearby, from above. He said he looked up and saw headlights in the sky, hundreds of them, just floating in formation like a traffic jam suspended in the clouds. They didn't move. They didn't blink. They just stayed there, humming. He said it felt like someone pressed the pause button on the world and forgot to press play again. He turned around to walk back and found his footprints missing. There was only one set, headed the other way. He followed it anyway. I haven't heard from him since. Some of the voices coming in now, they're not asking questions anymore. They're just repeating things. Loops of words, phrases. One woman called in last night and said, "He's standing behind the wind 27 times before the line cut." No name. No location. Another message just came in. A recording of someone breathing. 12 minutes. No background noise. Just breathing. Until the very end when the person says, "I remember your voice." Then silence. I didn't recognize the voice, but it was saying it to me. I'm not sure what that means. I used to think this was about a virus, a mistake, a leak, something we could trace and fight. Now I think this thing is older than our science, older than our maps. It doesn't need hosts. It doesn't spread like we expect. It waits. It watches. And when it finds a mind open enough, afraid enough, lonely enough, it moves in. I've stopped reading certain books, the ones with too much description, the ones that pull you in deep, because I think that's how it finds cracks. In the spaces between words, in the parts of you that wander while your eyes are moving across a page. I got a call from a nurse in Mississippi. She said the hospital she worked in finally went dark. All systems down, no backup, no signals in or out. She said she stayed because the patients weren't dead. Not completely. Their hearts didn't beat, but their eyes followed her when she moved. They didn't breathe, but their mouths twitched like they were trying to speak. She said one of them finally did. Just one word. Remember, she didn't sleep after that. She just walked out, didn't take anything with her. She said it didn't feel like escape. It felt like permission. There's a man in the mountains of British Columbia still broadcasting on a pirate signal. He calls himself 42. That's all he gives. I pick him up maybe once every 2 days when the solar winds shift. He doesn't talk about himself. He reads from old field manuals. Military. Communications. Survival. Dry stuff, but clean. Uncorrupted. And when he finishes, he says, "Stay feral." Then cuts the signal. I don't know who he is, but I like him. We need more people like that. People who don't talk about the fear. Just remind us what it means to stay sharp. To stay outside the system that's swallowing everything else. Stay feral. I've been trying to write things down on paper again. Memory slips more often now. Not big things, but small ones. I forgot the name of a friend I've had since I was 13. I can picture her face, her voice, but the name's gone. Every time I try to reach for it, I get static. Like my brain's tuning past a station that's no longer broadcasting. And the worst part? I don't know if I lost it, or if something took it. I'm getting fewer live calls now. More dead air, more static blips. When someone does speak, it's short, shaky. They don't say hello anymore. They just ask, "Am I real?" I don't know how to answer, but I keep the mic open because I think the silence is worse. The silence gives it room, and I won't give it that. Not yet. This is 104.7 FM. Still transmitting, still resisting. Still a name I can't say, but a voice I still recognize. If you're out there, hold your breath for 5 seconds. Let your body feel what it means to choose stillness. Then breathe out. Slow. That breath is yours. Don't give it away. It's 1:41 a.m. The walls are sweating again. I don't mean that in some metaphorical sense. They're literally damp. Concrete shouldn't hold moisture like this, not when everything else is dried out and cracking. But there's this condensation that creeps in after sunset, thick and oily. If I wipe it away, it beads back up almost instantly. Same places every night. 4 spots. 1 in each corner of the main room. It smells like copper and vinegar. And I swear I heard it dripping onto something that shouldn't be there. A second floor, but this place doesn't have one. Not anymore. I got a shortwave ping from outside New Orleans. Caller didn't give a name. Just a breathless voice, barely above a whisper, like they were speaking through clenched teeth. Said the river's wrong. It doesn't move like water anymore. It spirals. Said the fish swim in circles, even the dead ones. And the banks hum when you get too close. Low, bone-deep hum that makes your spine ache. They tried to film it, but the footage came out mirrored, like the river was pulling the camera's lens into another version of itself. They're leaving tonight. Walking north. I told them to avoid reflections. Metal, glass, eyes. They said, I know. That's how they find you. I didn't ask who they were. Sometimes it's better not to name things. I've noticed something new on the spectrum, below 20 hertz. Too low for human ears, but it's there. Constant pulse, not mechanical, not random, organic, like a heartbeat stretched over miles of soil. I think the ground's alive, or becoming something that is. There's a woman living in the underground parking structure of a collapsed mall in Ohio. She's alone now. The others are gone. She doesn't say dead. She says gone, like they walked off mid-sentence. She found their shoes in a perfect circle near the old elevator shaft, clothes folded, radios left behind, but no people, no footprints, nothing. She's painted her walls with charcoal, covered every surface in looping symbols she doesn't remember drawing. Says it keeps the voices out. I asked what voices. She didn't answer, but I could hear them. Faint. Repeating something just beneath the noise floor. I recorded it, slowed it down. It said, "The shell is cracking, and I think it means us." I got a broadcast fragment from someone broadcasting under the name Null Signal out of Utah. Very low power, probably using car batteries and spare boards. The voice wasn't scared, wasn't even emotional, just calm, like someone giving instructions during a house fire. They said, "The structures of reality are bending inward. Don't follow straight lines. Don't trust right angles. They lead to thoughts that don't belong to you." They closed with coordinates I didn't recognize. I mapped them later. They point to the middle of the Bonneville salt flats. Nothing there but dust and horizon. But maybe that's the point. Maybe empty space is the only safe shape left. Someone in eastern Canada called yesterday. Said the snow hasn't melted, not even in this heat. Not even under direct sunlight. It's not white anymore either. It's gray, fibrous. They picked up a piece and it didn't melt in their hand, just crumbled into dust that clung to the skin. When they looked closer, the dust formed letters. 3, to be exact. North ode west. Then it blew away. I don't think it was snow at all. I think it was a message. The past few nights I've stopped using mirrors, not because I'm scared, though I am, but because I noticed something. The longer I stare at myself, the less I recognize the small things. Blink rate, jaw tension, eye dilation. It's not that they're wrong. It's that they're too perfect, too rhythmic. No human is that symmetrical. Something's watching us through our own reflections, and it's getting better at playing us back. Don't test it, just cover them. Live rough, stay smudged. The cleaner you become, the easier you are to copy. That's what this is, I think. Not an infection, not a war, a replacement, something trying to overwrite the world by imitating it. And the better it gets, the harder it'll be to know what was ever real. A few listeners sent in what little remains of newspapers. Most of them are blank, like the ink peeled off when the lies dried out. But one had a headline from 3 days ago. CDC quietly closes Eastern offices. No statement issued. There's no article, just the headline. The rest of the page is gray. I think whatever took over knows how to edit things now. Not just documents, histories. I got a half-garbled message from Anchorage. Something about the sun not setting. Not because of the time of year, but because the shadows won't let it. Said the light keeps bouncing off ice, off steel, off every surface, creating a constant loop of brightness, like the sun is trapped in a mirror box. She said people there haven't slept in 3 days. Their eyes shine, even in total dark, and their mouths stay open, not to speak, just open, like they're waiting to breathe something in. She's leaving soon, heading underground. Wants to find old coal tunnels, someplace untouched by the sky. I wished her luck, and she whispered something before the line died. Tell them not to look up. So I'm telling you, don't look up. I know you want to, but don't. Some things don't want to be seen. They want to be accepted. And once you see them, it's too late to deny them. That's how belief works. And belief now is fatal. I'll be back as soon as the coil cools down. I've been running the signal hotter than I should. But I want you to hear this. You deserve to hear this. Because even if the world is ending, even if it's being replaced, you're still you, until you're not. And that gap, that edge, that's where you hold on. This is 104.7 FM. Still breath, still blood, still fighting the mirror. It's 3:03 a.m. I've started hearing things before they happen. It's faint, just a whisper of motion, a soft clink of metal or breath against the wall, but it always comes seconds before the real sound, a delay in the wrong direction, like the world is running on playback and I'm one beat ahead. I set a cup down earlier, and I heard the clink a second before it touched the table. I don't think it's a glitch. I think time is unraveling. A man in Montana sent me a recording through an old data key he left by a relay station. I found it yesterday in the storage drawer I swore I locked from the inside. The recording's audio was warped, like it had passed through a magnet, but I could make out most of it. He said the stars changed shape. Not that new ones appeared, not that old ones disappeared, but that the constellations themselves twisted, moved into configurations that don't make sense from a planetary frame. Said he woke up at 2:17 a.m. to all the stars pointing down, every one of them, like a bowl of eyes. He watched them for 10 minutes. Then they blinked. He doesn't sleep now, doesn't dream, just walks through empty fields, tracking the positions of light. He thinks they're getting closer. I can't prove him wrong. I got a very short message from somewhere along the Ohio River, just a kid's voice. He said, "Mom doesn't have a face anymore." I tried calling back, but the frequency was dead. The worst part? He didn't sound scared, just confused, like someone who's seen something impossible and doesn't know they're supposed to scream. That's what's happening, I think. We're losing the instinct to panic. Because panic is a survival tool, and if something else is in here with us, mimicking the instincts, then maybe we're just shedding what it doesn't need. Got a scratchy transmission from someone in an old emergency tower near St. Louis. He was doing signal diagnostics. Said he picked up a tone at 19.3 hertz, barely perceptible, but it modulated with speech patterns if you stood still long enough. He recorded it through a contact mic pressed to the concrete. When he played it back, it said, "You are softer now." He ran, left the gear, traveled 30 miles on foot before he stopped to sleep. Said the next morning, his voice was gone. Not his throat, not laryngitis. Just no voice. Mouth moved, air passed, no sound. He's using pencil and paper now. Writes everything twice. in case one disappears. A group near Phoenix is using old CB radios to track what they call emotional currents. They say certain valleys light up with transmission during specific hours, only when people nearby feel intense fear, grief, or memory. No electronics, just pure broadcast. They call them sorrow fields. One girl wandered into one at dusk. Her eyes rolled back. She spoke in voices, plural, all at once, all tangled. They said she quoted diary entries from people who died in the last week, private entries, never read aloud. She collapsed, woke up 12 hours later. Didn't remember anything but a smell, rust and oranges. They've quarantined the valley. But the broadcasts still happen, like echoes of something that wants to be heard but doesn't want to be understood. It's trying to speak emotion now. That's worse than words. I've noticed my dreams are starting to overlap. Not repeat. Overlap. As if I'm having more than one at a time. One part of me walking a flooded hallway, the other sitting in a room with no windows, talking to someone I've never seen, but somehow know. Sometimes I wake up mid-sentence, finishing something I didn't say. This morning I said, "We weren't supposed to let it feel us." And then I cried. I didn't know why. I still don't. I think the virus, if it even is one, has stopped attacking the body. Now it wants the narrative. The part of you that makes sense of things. That keeps track of what's real and what's hallucination. Once it seizes that, what's left? Got a call from a guy on the fringes of Las Vegas. Said all the neon signs still light up, even with no grid. But they don't say the right words. The E in eat flickers into a B. The hotel letters rearranged themselves last week into let ho. No wind, no tampering, just blinked into new order. The signs are spelling sentences now, sometimes warnings, sometimes questions. One of them, above an abandoned diner, says, "Who taught you your name?" He's been watching it for 4 days. It hasn't changed. He left yesterday. I don't blame him. Whatever's mimicking the world, it's learning grammar. I got a handwritten note from someone outside Seattle. She said the power came back briefly. Just a flicker. Enough for the TV to turn on by itself. No channel. Just a black screen and a message. Please prepare for re-rendering. Then static. She unplugged it, cut the cable, but now the screen still lights up at 3:33 a.m. every morning. No power, no signal, just light. She covers it with a blanket. It still glows underneath. She sleeps in the bathtub now. The old kind, made of iron. She says it's the only place that doesn't hum. If you're listening, and I know some of you still are, remember this. Not everything that looks familiar is safe. Not every voice you hear is a person. Not every thought you have is yours. The world is shifting under your feet. The past is soft clay. The future is static. All we have is this moment, right now, and the choice to stay human in it, whatever that means now. This is 104.7 FM. Still heat, still hunger, still holding on. It's 4:44 a.m. I think the air's heavier tonight. Not hotter, just thicker. Like something unseen has settled on top of everything and refuses to lift. My breath comes slower. The sound of my own voice feels muffled, like I'm underwater. There's a taste in the air I can't place, like melted coins and old wires. The station walls are flexing again. I put a pencil up against one of the corners and watched it roll across the floor. Slow, steady. I'm on level ground. That shouldn't happen. I rechecked the slope 3 times. The floor is not tilting, but space is. The station is warping. I don't know how long I have in here, or whether I'll know when it finally gives. I got a message through Morse from someone outside of Amarillo. They've rigged a repeater tower to run on salvaged wind power. Said they've been tracking something strange with barometric shifts, patterns that don't match the storms. Every time a town goes quiet, the pressure spikes for 7 seconds. Exactly 7. Then it stabilizes like nothing happened. 7 seconds, not 6, not 8. Same number every time. They think it's a signature, a handshake, something sealing the event. And once the pressure normalizes, the place is different. People inside don't scream. They just vanish. Or worse, they stay. But they're not them anymore. The relay operator said he saw a neighbor wave at him through binoculars this morning. Same man. Same face. Same shirt he wore a week ago. But his skin didn't crease. And when he blinked, it was vertical. He waved, then turned, and walked straight into a pond without breaking the surface. No splash. Just gone. I don't think we're being replaced all at once. I think it's one town at a time, one thought at a time, one heartbeat. A listener from northern Maine left me a voicemail. He doesn't speak English anymore, said his mouth won't form the words. He writes them fine, understands them when he hears them. But when he tries to speak, something else comes out. Clicks, warped vowels, echoes. He recorded it for me. I played it back through the analog filters, slowed it, reversed it, filtered the high bands. There was something underneath, a voice, mine, saying, "You're already here." I don't remember recording that, but it's definitely me. Definitely my tone. And that scares me more than anything else tonight. If this thing can reach backward, if it can inject things into your past, it means time isn't safe either. And if time isn't safe, then memory's just bait. A woman called in from somewhere near Kansas City. She said her baby started humming in its sleep. Nothing eerie, just a soft tune she didn't recognize. Repeated every night at 3:01. She tried recording it. The mic picked up something else. Not the hum, but a voice beneath it. It said, "We're learning how to cradle." She smashed the recorder, left it outside in the dirt. The next night, the baby stopped humming and started mouthing the words instead. That's how fast it learns. She's been sleeping outside now. Not far, just on the porch. She keeps a knife made of wood, and she doesn't speak after sundown. Said if you stay silent, it doesn't know what shape to make of you. I think she's right. Another man, somewhere deep in what used to be Atlanta, called me for the 3rd time this week. Says he's tracking changes in graffiti. Swears the messages written by survivors are being edited. Said he watched a phrase morph in real time. It said, "Don't drink the water." Then the letters stretched, smudged, and shifted into drink and no. No hand touched it, no rain, no trick of the light, just a change. He thinks the virus, or whatever it is, has found a way to infect ink, to rewrite warnings into invitations. He paints over everything now, uses sand, bleach, fire. He's scared of words now. Me too. Got a static, blurred emergency band echo from someone on an oil rig that drifted loose off the Gulf. Said the stars above the ocean are different. Not in pattern, but in depth. He used a telescope. Said the stars now curve inward, like they're painted on the inside of a shell, like we're not on the outside of space anymore, but inside something, contained, measured, and that every wave out there ends in silence. No echoes, no birds, no wind. Just endless sea and a dome above it. He said, "It's not the Earth that's changed. It's the universe that moved around us." I believe him, because it matches something I felt the other night. I opened the front hatch at 1:12 a.m. to cool the room, just for a second, and all the noise, the generator, the bugs, even the static, cut out. Like a bubble had passed over the station. For that moment it was perfect silence. No hiss, no hum, just air. And in that moment, I swear I heard a knock. Not on the door, on the inside of my chest, like something calling home. I shut the hatch and haven't opened it since. So here I am, speaking into a world I'm not sure exists anymore. But if you're still out there, still hearing me, know this. This voice is mine. This breath is mine, and I won't surrender either without a fight. 104.7 FM. Still signal, still fear, still truth. If the world is being remade, remake yourself harder. Let it chew, but never swallow.